You are sitting across from someone who has just told you 3 things in a row that did not happen. Not exaggerated things. Not things they remember wrong. Things that did not happen. And the strange part is not the lies. The strange part is that they do not blink. Their voice does not change. They are looking at you the whole time. If you have been in a room with a pathological liar, you already know the rest of this. You are not paranoid. You are paying attention. There are 7 signs the lying has stopped being situational and become structural. The kind that runs on a loop, immune to evidence, immune to being caught, and the only thing more disorienting than the lie is the fact that they deliver it without flinching. Here are the 7. Watch for number 5. That is the one most people forgive because the person doing it sounds like the only one in the room who is being honest. 1. The lie has no cost. Most people, when they lie, pay a small visible price. They look away. They pause a beat too long. Their voice lifts at the end of the sentence. A pathological liar does not pay the price. The researcher Paul Ekman spent his career mapping the micro-expressions of the face during deception, the flicker of the brow, the tightening of the lip. The thing that distinguishes the pathological liar is not that they feel no fear. It is that the fear does not show up in the face. The lie costs them nothing in the room, and so they can do it again, in the same conversation, in the same breath, without ever resetting. The fix: stop listening for the tell. Start tracking the pattern. 1 contradiction is a mistake. 2 in the same conversation is a system. If you are catching them twice, you have already caught them 100 times. 2. The picture-perfect story. Most liars, when they improvise, produce a story that is wobbly. The chronology skips. The sensory detail is thin. The clean lie is hard to build in real time. The pathological liar produces a story that is too clean. Aldert Fry, the deception researcher, showed that cognitive load is what makes ordinary liars slip. They cannot hold a false story, monitor your face, and adjust the timeline all at once. The pathological liar has rehearsed the story so often that the load is gone. It comes out pre-built, paced like a podcast, with the right pauses, the right adjectives, and not a single wobble. The fix: do not fact-check the content. Stress test the process. Ask them to tell it backward. Ask them to tell it to you tomorrow. The story that survived being rehearsed is the story that will survive being tested. The story that was just invented falls apart in the second telling. 3. The allergic to details. A real memory is full of small accidental texture. What was on the counter, what song was playing in the car, the color of the jacket. A pathological liar cannot risk that texture, because texture is testable. The researcher Siegfried Sporer called it questionable poorness. Liars, even skilled ones, tend to underproduce verifiable specifics. So the verifiable details vanish. The unverifiable ones multiply. The dinner happened at the restaurant on Main, not at the restaurant on 5th, and the date is fuzzy, and the name of the person they were with is on the tip of their tongue, and the next time you ask, the name has changed. The fix: pick 1 small specific and write it down. The weather, the time, the name of a person who was supposedly there. You are not building a case. You are taking a single snapshot. The pathological liar cannot keep the snapshot stable. That is the tell. 4. They rewrite in real time. Most people, when caught in a lie, blush, stammer, and try to change the subject. A pathological liar does something stranger. They accept the contradiction and rewrite the story on the spot, without missing a beat, as if the new version is what they had been saying all along. The earlier version is not retracted. It is simply overwritten. You say, "You told me yesterday you were at the office," and they say, "That is right. I was at the office in the morning, and then the meeting was at the hotel," and you sit there realizing that you are now hearing a third version of the same story, and they are not even slightly flustered. The fix: do not let the rewrite pass. Restate the previous version out loud and ask them to reconcile the two. If they cannot, you are not dealing with a person who is wrong. You are dealing with a person who is editing the record while you read it. Leave the conversation. The document is contaminated. 5. The lie about the lie. The first lie is small and defensive. The second lie is enormous. The cover-up is more elaborate than the offense. And this is the one most people forgive, because the elaborate story sounds like effort, and effort looks like care. They did not do the thing. But the reason they did not do the thing is a long, specific, almost cinematic account of how the thing became impossible. And it is so detailed and so contrite that you find yourself feeling sorry for them, for what they went through, instead of noticing that none of it happened. The researcher Marlene Kramer studied this as defensive other deception, lying to protect the original lie, in escalating detail, because the secondary lie is the one that lets the speaker keep their footing. The fix. Length is not evidence. Detail is not evidence. The only evidence is the part that can be checked. If the cover story is more elaborate than the original offense, the cover story is the offense. Do not reward the performance. Reward the part that survives verification. 6. They preempt your doubt. The pathological liar is often the first person in the room to mention that someone might be lying. They say, "I know you probably think I am making this up," before you have thought anything. They say, "You can ask anyone," knowing that you will not. They say, "I have nothing to hide," with a frequency that is in inverse proportion to the truth of the statement. Bella DePaulo, who has spent decades studying self-presentation and deception, calls this self-presentational concern, the liar working harder than anyone else to manage the room's belief in them, because the alternative is collapse. The fix. Notice the preemption and do not respond to it. The statement, "I have nothing to hide," is not a transparency cue. It is a control move. The person who actually has nothing to hide does not need to announce it. The person who needs you to believe they have nothing to hide is, almost every time, the person who has something to hide. 7. The friend of friends pattern. You will, eventually, hear the same shape of story over and over. Everyone in their past is the villain. The ex was unhinged. The previous friend was jealous. The last workplace was toxic. The current partner is unfair. You are the only person who has ever understood them. The pathological liar, the clinical literature suggests, maintains a stable internal narrative in which they are always the one being wronged, and everyone they have ever been close to is the one who failed. The pattern is not that they have had bad luck. The pattern is that they are the only constant in every bad luck story. The fix. Stop listening to the story. Start listening to the structure. If every chapter has a different villain and the same narrator, the narrator is the variable you have not isolated. Trust the structure. The story is the lie. Here is the part most people miss. None of these signs make someone a bad person. Everyone lies. Everyone rewrites. Everyone has had a season of bad luck and a couple of villains. The darkness is not in the behavior. The darkness is in the pattern and in what the pattern does to you. Every time you catch a lie and let it pass, the liar learns that the cost of lying is 0. Every time you accept the rewrite, the previous version of you, the version that knew what was said, gets a little quieter. The liar does not take your trust. The liar takes your ability to trust yourself. So here's the counter. 3 moves, cold and slow. 1. Slow the conversation down. The pathological liar scripts for speed. Their stories are paced. Their rebuttals are pre-built. Their emotional escalation is rehearsed. Delay any response by 6 hours. The response you give in the first hour is the response they collected. The response you give at hour 6 is the one that counts. 2. Write it down. A lie that lives in conversation dies in conversation. A lie that lives on paper has a previous version. You are not building a case. You are building a record. The pathological liar cannot keep a record stable. That is the test. 3. Trust the pattern, not the promise. They will promise, again, that it is over, that this is the last time, that you are the only person who has ever understood them. The promise is part of the pattern. The pattern is the data. Hold the data. One line to keep. You were not trained to see the lie. You were trained to forgive it. And the only person who can rewire that is the one reading this. If that landed, subscribe. 1 new video a week. The next one breaks down how to tell, in the first 30 seconds, whether someone is about to lie to you. I will see you there.